Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny.
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
the unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Welcome to Bigfoot and the Bunny. I'm Chris Carr.
And I am Kristen Johnson.
Happy Saturday.
Happy
hope
Saturday.
You guys are doing good out there. As usual, Kristen's laptop's having some issues. We still haven't replaced it, so should be doing our best to moderate, particularly on our Bigfoot and the Bunny and Dark Horse pages. And our cat balls are going crazy.
Yes, they are.
There's a couple of them up there that have basically not stopped since we turned them on. And we've got a good show for you. Just to recap, if you guys saw Thursday's show, it was quite a bit of data. We were joined by our good friend Greg Koss, and we were doing dueling spirit boxes, ghost boxes. Yes, the knockout punch. And Greg had a box going. We had a box going here. Our friend Reggie was out there, and he was experiencing phenomena in his house. He clipped a couple of things for us. Thank you, Reggie.
Yes, thank you, Reggie.
I know he's got putting some things together, but we were getting some really good responses. Trying to talk to Lizzie Borden and getting things like Maple Croft across the box, which is just not a word that comes across the radio, right?
No.
And it quite clearly said that amongst many other things, and that was a lot of fun. So whatever platform you're watching us now, if you haven't seen that, you can go back into the archives and check that out. Enjoy. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you hear what we heard. Oh, look at this. I closed so many tabs. Well, I think we're going to get right to things. Our guest today is Jill Cole, and she is like an emissary for the Galactic Federation of Light, and she's going to tell us how she came about with that title, how that was given to her. And we talked to a good friend of hers not too long ago, and it's how we met. Was Michelle Carpenter about a month ago or so. I forget how many weeks it was, but we had a great time talking to Michelle, and I think you guys are going to really like this.
Thank you.
We'll bring her on right now, and she can explain this stuff to us. Hey, Jill.
Hi,
guys.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, welcome.
All the way in New Zealand.
Yes.
And I think it is around like noon your time tomorrow. If I'm not
midday Sunday.
Wow.
Exactly. So you already know the future.
Yeah, we're ahead of the world.
I love that.
That's my joke for people on that side of the planet. You already know what's going to happen. It's already tomorrow. And we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
To our humble show, and look forward to this discussion. Can you tell us what is the Galactic Federation of Light exactly?
So I didn't even know there was anything called the Galactic Federation of Light. I had no knowledge whatsoever. And what happened was my sister in Africa, she sent me an email with a link to somebody called Alba Weinman's video YouTube. And she said, I don't even know how I got this on my computer. I don't even know this lady. She said, but for some really weird reason, I felt compelled to send it to you. And so I opened it up and I was blown away. I thought, wow, this is fascinating. It was all about entities and energies attached to this person and how under hypnosis she communicated with them, she cleared them, she sent them back to the light, she scanned the bodies. I mean, it was fascinating for me. And I thought to myself, I need to get her as a guest speaker to New Zealand because people need to learn about this stuff. And I looked up her website, and it said she's coming to visit Down Under. She's coming to New Zealand and Australia. I thought, what?
Synchronicity.
A little bit of a synchronicity right there. Sure.
And then I booked a ticket to have a session with her, but it was in Wellington, which the tickets are so expensive to fly there. I miraculously got one for $65. Usually they're $300 or $400. Wow. And I thought, okay, that's weird. And I also didn't know that her sessions sell out in seconds because everybody wants a slice of her. And I had a cup of tea. I looked for my credit card. I had no idea this was like, wow, got a session, went and had a session with her, thinking that I was going to do all these past lives. And instead I went straight into channeling. And it said that they called themselves the Intergalactic Federation of Light, not just the Galactic. And they said that I was an ambassador and I've been chosen to come this fractal of myself on Earth at this time, that they're going to use me as a messenger, and that my words are going to first reach thousands and then millions. And when I start getting taken off the airwaves, then you know that I'm hitting a nerve. And I thought to myself, who on earth is the Galactic Federation of Light?
Right.
And then afterwards, after the session, before the session, when I'd actually managed to get it, I found myself pumping my fist in the air like, whoa, I've got a hole in one. And I thought, well, that's weird. So at that stage, I only had one guide that I knew of called Aurelius. And I said, wow, Aurelius, what was that about? And he said that we've aligned this. We used your sister as a catalyst because you and the American are going to be working together. And I thought, well, that's never going to happen. She's in America, I'm in New Zealand. I thought, what a load of rubbish. And 2 years after that, I was given a vision of what they want me to do on Earth with different speakers all on the platform at the same time. And she would be one of them. So I contacted her and I said to her, look, this is the idea. She said, wow. She said, well, I tell you what, we should start that in New Zealand because that's a big mission. Why don't we do a practice run? So I said, okay. And then I phoned her back and I said, they've just told me there's a man called Antonio Sangio and you have to bring him with you and he has to teach me what you do, this hypnosis, the way you do it. She said, that's never going to happen. He's just retired from his work and he's teaching full time and he has to have a certain amount of people to actually cover all the costs and make it viable. And I thought, well, that's odd. If Spirit says something and all this happens. So I said, well, why don't we just pencil him in? I'll book the hotel. I can advertise. I'll host him. And if he gets enough people, then we'll do it. And if he doesn't, so be it. And within 10 minutes, she phoned me back and she said, I just can't believe it. He said yes. So he arrived. We had one of the largest classes he's ever had. People came from all over the world. And when he left, he said to me, Jill, in 2020, early 2020, I'm taking a group to Peru because he's Peruvian. And he said, we'd love you to come with us. And then in Peru, everything started going, even more so than usual, really weird.
Peru is on our bucket list.
Yes.
A place.
Oh, wow. Highly recommend. And I started channeling. I was woken up at 3 a.m. and was told the serpent is rising, the serpent is risen. Mm-hmm. And then when I got from Lima to Cusco, and I was in the lobby of our pension and meeting all the other people that I didn't know, I was sort of just staring out into space. And Alba said, what do you see? And without even knowing, I said, oh, it's a spaceship. It's cigar-shaped. In the front is like when you get a clock and the wristwatch and you've got the dials with the grooves on the side. Mm-hmm. And I said, we have to all put our ankhs or our ankhs in there. It's our keys of light. This is our headquarters. This is like the war room. This is where we all meet together and make decisions for what's going to happen. And
wow.
The lady next to me looked at Alba and said, what on earth is she speaking about? And I was so embarrassed because that hadn't happened to me like that. And I said, oh, I've just got to go to my room. Cheers, see you later. Off I went. And that was my introduction to that spaceship and everything that was to come.
Wow, that is really something. And I want to share just a little video and it's from your website, which for people who will listen to this as a podcast or just listening, not watching the screen, and can't see our ticker at the bottom, is Jill Cole, JILLCOLE.org. You can find this and other information about you, just so people can see what it's like to see somebody doing this kind of hypnosis. Let me launch this. I think the audio will come through.
It's got crystalline light bodies all the way on the other side. Oh, it's a God of honor. They're welcoming me home.
Beautiful.
And you're there with Alba under hypnosis, obviously, and information is just coming forth. You're channeling it, which is fantastic.
And it was over Zoom.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
Is that right? So she's not actually in the room with you at the time?
I do
No?
all my clients all over the world over Zoom.
Wow.
Excellent. And hypnosis is a service that you offer on your website, right?
Yes, but it's a specific type. It's called introspective hypnosis. So I've learned it's not even a regression anymore. It's a parallel life. So it's all happening at the same time. And it's difficult for people sometimes to get their head around that. But I connect them with loved ones who've passed over under hypnosis, connect them with their guides, take them to other lives to find out the lessons and see the lesson that they're living in their current life, their life purpose, answer all the questions that are relevant to the issues that they are having, why they're having it, why they've chosen specific relationships, what the contract is, how they're doing, if there's anything they need to sever, check their bodies for entities or energies, find out why they're there, and scan the body and sort out issues.
Oh, that's interesting. There's a couple of things in here I'd like to talk about. Contracts. What do you mean by contracts?
Okay, so say you are in a marriage at the moment and it's very difficult and you just can't understand why things are not working smoothly. So I then find out, I take them back to when they were in the waiting room as such, where they are meeting the key players that are going to play with them on this current adventure, this current incarnation. And then the guy would most probably say, okay, I'm going to come as your husband this time. And I'm going to be a real, am I allowed to use the word B-A-S-T-A-R?
You can use any word. Yes,
Yeah.
use any word you like.
Okay, so I'm going to be a real bastard. I'm going to push every last button. You're going to forget the amazing spirit that I am. You're going to forget that I'm part of your soul family. But remember, it's because you said that you wanted to find your voice. And so I'm going to do this until you stand up and go, no more. Enough. So in a relationship, if they get to the point where they've learned the lesson and they've found their voice, then that contract is complete. They don't have to have that marriage anymore. They can then say, thank you so much for playing your part so well, but I actually choose now to exit this contract.
It's like a life lesson, if you will, like something we needed to learn in life. And if you've already reached that point and you get to learn the lesson, because all our relationships are like lessons, and you learn them, then you're free to go. So you mentioned life purpose, and that's huge, right? Like everybody is wandering around wondering what their purpose is. Like, how do you see that in a person?
So when they are in that deep state of hypnosis, and I connect them either with their guides, the wise counsel, or their loved ones, and I say to those beings or that spirit, are you happy now to answer some questions for Chris? And every single time it's been, actually once it was a no, because, and that was just 2 days ago, because they didn't have a guide. They actually had a collective. So they will then step forward and I'll say, hi, you know, Chris is really struggling with ABC. And he wants to know his life purpose because he needs to know whether there's anything that he has to learn or study to add to his tools in his toolkit. Could you please tell me what it is that he needs to know at this time? And then they'll say, he's running this podcast, he's reaching thousands, he's doing exactly what he should be doing. But in actual fact, we now would like him to go on the road. We want him to go from town to town and set up a booth and do it in a different way. So that kind of thing, things that some people have never thought of, get added. Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And
so interesting.
Very, very. Now, when you say, you know, the spirits or they are telling me, what are we talking about in your case? Are we talking about an alien intelligence? Are we talking about spirits that roam the earth, that are outbound, or maybe earthbound, or some kind of higher purpose guide?
It's actually it can be a combination. So in 2010, I was introduced to my second guide called Dominus. I was working from home. It was snowing outside. The fire was going. I had all the curtains closed. And I thought, you know, I'll have a cup of tea. Walked to the kitchen and suddenly my mouth started drooping on one side. And I thought, I'm having a stroke. But my mouth opened and I started having this weirdest conversation out loud in a language I've never heard of, no earth language, but it wasn't light language. It was a solid language. And in my head, I was being told ancient Aramaic.
Oh my goodness.
And I was thinking, what on earth is going on? Then I suddenly strode towards the curtains, opened them up, and then it said, you have been and spoke in English. You have been chosen. You are a channel. Open up your heart and let the light in. It is time for the discourse to begin. Didn't know what that meant. And I then said to my guide, Aurelius, who on earth was that talking to me? He said, Dominus. I said, who's Dominus? He said, Lord Protector, Lord Galactor, Lord Almighty. We too bow unto and before him. You have now earned the right to work with Dominus. When I spoke to Dominus, he said, you haven't earned the right. You've actually learnt the right. 2 weeks later, and at the stage I was a real estate agent, and there was only one property I hadn't bought a present for because they had then moved the other address. And anyway, I saw a car there. It took 2 years, but this was just 2 weeks after the funny language, to see a car in that driveway. And I thought, oh, I've got to give them a present. And this is how spirit works. Knocked on the door. And the lady that I spoke to was a friend of the couple. I said, I'm just going to go and get the prezi. I brought it, put it, and she said, sit down. I thought, I don't have time to sit down. She said, look, I really also would like a holiday house. Here's my card. On the card was a double tetrahedron with rainbows. I thought, that's odd. So I said to her, oh, what's that? And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, why, Jill, this is a double tetrahedron. And I thought, okay, she's not saying anything. So off I went. On the Monday, she phoned me. Now, this is just 2 weeks, after the funny language. On the Monday, she phoned me. She said, do you have time for me, please? I'd like to chat to you. So I assumed it was about purchasing a house. So she said, let me meet you at this restaurant at lunchtime. She arrived and she said, are you hungry? I said, no, not particularly. She said, good, because I've got a message for you. And she said, follow me back to the house. And I thought, well, obviously she's just going to say that people said, thanks for the present. She doesn't know me. She just thinks I'm a real estate agent. She made me sit in her kitchen. She said, I've got to close my eyes with this one. And then she started speaking exactly the language.
The Aramaic that you had in your head?
That I'd been speaking out loudly. And she said, the Space Brothers are here. Do you understand?
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
I said, yes. And then I felt something below my belly button, and it looked like a pyramid, but it had gone upside down. And she said, they're asking you, is a pyramid in place? I said, yes. She said, they're asking you for a big favor. There's just been a BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and they need your vessel to clean it up. And inside my head, at that stage, with the knowledge that I had, I didn't realize who I was. And I thought, that's ridiculous. Why would these space beings need a human vessel to clear up an oil spill? So I very facetiously said, yeah, sure. And he started going all around me because I was peeping. And just before that, she said to me, you need to ground yourself. And I didn't even know what ground was. And I said to Aurelius, help, if you want me to ground myself, you better ground me. And I was on the ground, and I went through the ground through molten lava, and I went right down into the center of the earth where there was a water drip, and they told me that was the heartbeat of Gaia. And then I was water, fire, earth, and I shot out into the earth, and it was air. And they said, now you're grounded.
Wow.
And so,
4 elements. Yeah.
That's exactly. Yeah, I was thinking.
Very
and
interesting.
then she said, they're saying thank you. And I just laughed. I said, it's not a problem, because what had I done, right? Zippo, nothing. And then she said to me, Jill, you were huge in Egypt. And I knew that because I'd kept on seeing all the stuff in Anubis and Thoth, and I was told I was Thoth, Hermes, and Ra in mind, body, and spirit in the other fractal. So I just listened to what she had to say, and then I said, oh my gosh, I've got to go to work. Cheers. Off I went. The very next day, when I went to work, the secretary said to me, hey, did you see the breaking news on TV this morning? So I said, no. She said, about the oil spill in Mexico. I said, in the Gulf of Mexico. I said, excuse me, what did you say? She said, scientists said that there was an organism that must have eaten up most of it overnight.
Wow.
Really? Wow, that is wild. I've heard about them working with that as a method of removal, using some kind of living organism that would eat it. And that's exactly what happened. So that is wild. Yeah. Now, when you said we went through that grounding process, did you visually see with your eyes, or just kind of feel like you went into the earth?
I see everything like it's on a video.
Wow. Yeah. Do visualization type exercises, but I don't really see it,
Oh, you don't?
Certainly not that detail. So that's really interesting.
Both of us, yeah.
Yeah, we both do those sort of things. Let me see here, a couple of questions. Greg Koss says, aren't they all one in the same spirit, ghost, alien,
Like
and
an
now
umbrella?
ancient Aramaic? So what his question, I guess, is these entities, these things, beings that you're talking to, can they all be kind of one and the same of, what one person's guide is another person's alien?
Well, how they explained it to me is there isn't anything called alien, because that's who we are as well. We all come from one. So how they showed it to me is, if you see the movies of somebody being murdered in New York, they're on the pavement, they get a piece of chalk and they do a body outline.
Yeah.
So they say, imagine if that is called source or God. And then if you got a dot of chalk and you dotted and dotted all over like millions of little cells, those are us. Those are all our fragments in there. And then all that is says, right, where do you want to go? What do you want to explore? Because it wants to feel itself. It wants to grow. It wants to expand. It's all about expansion instead of contraction. So we then get developed as, they showed me like, okay, this is going a bit sort of scientific. I saw it looked like a torus field, like a donut, with like a macrame or a web all around it, coming in through the middle and shooting out. They said, this is a point of stillness. This is how humans, I must teach them also how they can create create anything through the point of stillness. That's why they always recommend meditation, but people don't realize why. So we all came out as a burst of color, light, frequency, vibration, turned into matter through our Merkaba, which is our vehicle, our light vehicle, and that changes the shape. So if we become an Arcturian, an earthling from Andromeda, from Sirius, from planets we don't even know about, we actually change our structure through the frequency. But that becomes our matter. But we always have our Merkaba, or our light vehicle, or our capsule. It takes us from place to place. So some of us need guides, as in an earthling, and they said how that works is we usually communicate via what's termed a higher self, the highest part of the self. So they gave me an example of an obelisk with at the top the capstone with the antenna. So your higher self is the capstone, you are the obelisk, that is the incoming and the receiving and the transmitting, and we are crystalline of structure, and we are magnetic. We actually are mathematical equations. We are energy outputs. Does that make sense?
I don't
it
doubt it.
really does. It sounds like a fractal, like you're
Yes.
saying before.
And then they said, it's a cosmic joke that humans judge each other, because they said, why would you judge one if you actually were once that yourself? And they showed me a kaleidoscope, or do you know if you go and choose a paint color to paint your house,
Mhm.
and you've got that swatch with all the colors, all the blues, all the greens, all the colors. They said humanity living on Earth right now are all different colors. All of us are different colors. And then that's because you are vibrating in a color, in a bandwidth of color. So if you're on the blues, you might be turquoise, you might be indigo, you might going towards the purple. Any other being that comes in their bandwidth, where the colors are complementary, will automatically help each other. It's a universal law, and you feel comfortable. And they said sometimes you won't be invited to a dinner party, and you won't invite those other people to a dinner party. It's not because you don't like them, but it just means that you are literally on a different vibration. So they are coming to experience everything with the feeling of what it is to be the color red. You might be in the blues, somebody else might be in the yellows, but we experience in different incarnations all the different colors until we go back to the white that holds them all.
Excellent. I like that.
Yes.
I like that thought, and thinking about it, and say another planet, but it might have a different vibration.
Mhm.
The light from its sun and the stars may hit it differently. Therefore, you're going to end up looking a little differently.
It also reminded me of auras, people's auras, chakras. We're all vibrating, differently.
Sure. So
And that changes
I'm sorry?
the chakras, the colors, that the auras change
Mhm.
daily depending on what's going on with them.
Sure. I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes total sense. Yes.
excellent. So when you got to Peru and you had some epiphanies with that, was there more with the Peru? I might have sidetracked you a little bit.
Yes. So 2 days later, after the lobby, Alba had a gathering at a hotel there, and there were people from all over the world, not just our group, that all came. And then we had a meditation with a man called Tabash Blestara. So Blestara lives in New Zealand, but he channels a being called Tabash. And it's a total transfiguration. He changes his voice, everything. So he was running this meditation, and they were talking about going through 3 doors, and you'll see something. I went through the first door, and I was told that I was the eye of wisdom. I went through the second door, and I was told that I was the gatekeeper for the portal of Egypt. I
Wow.
went through the third door, and although my eyes were closed, it was so bright I couldn't see. I actually had to put my hands up because it was so bright. And it said, "You are the light that holds and keeps all the galaxies in place." And it was too much for me. And I started wailing, and I'm not a person that wails. And I knew that everybody was in a deep meditation, and it came from the pit of my soul. It was like seeing yourself, seeing your actual soul. It was phenomenal. And what
And
was so
overwhelming too, probably. I'm sorry,
Oh.
overwhelming as well. That's why you're wailing, because it's so
Yeah.
much.
it was too much. But what was so fascinating was 2 days before, I'd spoken about the unks and how we all have to put our unks in that circle. And 3 of the girls that were in that meditation as such, as they went around the room saying, "Would you like to share?" One girl pointed at a girl across the circle from her on the other side of the room and said, "I was in Egypt and you were putting things in my mouth." And she said, "Yes, I was the priestess of the temple and you were the pharaoh and I was feeding you unks." And next to her, the other girl said, "Yes, I was there too. And I was holding all the grapes and the food. I was, looking after you guys." And I thought, whoa, hold on. There are 3 humans here, all in this gathering, in exactly the same meditation in Egypt.
Wow.
Wow. And when you
Isn't
say
it
up, are you referring to the Egyptian sort of cross with the circle at the top?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just want to make
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, the keys of light. And then a few days later, we went to all these rocks. It's like pyramids, like Egypt, where they're so tight together, you couldn't even put a credit card between them. Something
Wow.
made me put my hands on the rocks. And then the drums started playing. Just out of nowhere, I could hear drums. The girl about 10 feet away, she said, "Hey, Jill, do you hear the drums?" And then another one further down from her said, "Hey, do you hear the drums?" And these were the same girls that have interacted with the Egyptian thing. And then in front of me, the rocks started parting and the steps went right up to the high priest at the top with his headdress and all his feathers and everything. And he said, come and join us for the ceremony."
Wow. That is
And
so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is wicked interesting. I noticed on your YouTube, and for listeners that didn't know, you have a YouTube channel as well, besides jillcole.org. By searching for Jill Cole, you can find your YouTube pretty quickly. And you mentioned Thoth in I think Antarctica in the particular video, and we watched a little of it before the show.
I just wrote that down to question
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
very interesting. So did you get to talk to Thoth, or God
So-
of, I believe, knowledge of Egyptian, right?
So just before I start that, in Peru, I actually started channeling out loud twice.
Okay.
And my whole voice changed. It became super, super masculine. I was speaking this foreign language, and yet everybody understood the messages that they got. But the guy that was with me, Blair Styra, who does Tabash, he said to me, "Jill, we're going to Machu Picchu.
Yes.
You're not allowed to channel there." He said, "If you do," yeah, look.
Yeah, we really want to go.
We do. We so much so we bought the seltzer.
I can't really
It's actually called Machu Picchu, just for the name alone. So,
Good on you guys. You're going to have a ball.
It tasted like crap, but we needed the can.
the name had me sold. They're like, we're buying that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Manifestation in a can. So he said, "You're not allowed to do that. If you do, we'll get kicked off." And this was like the highlight of the trip. I said, "Well, that's okay for you. You're used to this. I don't know when it's going to happen. It just happened." He said, "Don't ever forget you're in charge. You tell them." So we got on the bus to go up to Machu Picchu, and I just spoke in my head and I said, "Guys, you can't just, you've got to come when I tell you kind of thing. And they said, look up. We want you to see the base. Look at the cave. It's an alien base. So I had a look, and the mountains are right close up. There's no way I would have found that cave if they hadn't told me. It was this huge, big, dark entrance in the mountain. And they said, there's an alien base in the mountain that feeds off the energy of the spiritual beings that visit Machu Picchu, because they're in such a high spiritual state and excited to be there. But you and your group are protected. Pleased to know that there are aliens living in sacred mountains all around the earth plane. And lots of you won't see them because they live away from humanity, but a few of them, they're not all baddies as such.
Mhm.
So I just thought I'd better tell you about that. So with Thoth or Thoth, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
I spoke to a lady in Egypt who had been into the king's chamber and had an incredible experience, almost dematerializing, and she said it was incredible. And I
Wow.
said to her, tell me about Thoth and all this. And she said to me, I said, it's in a place called, what on earth was it? I had gone an absolute blank now. And she said, no, there's no such place in Egypt. I said, I just know it's in Egypt. And she then looked it up and she said, oh my gosh, Joel, it is. It's on the northern side near the Mediterranean. And there's actually a Menti. I think it was a Menti or something. Anyway, she said, there's a temple dedicated to Thoth there. So I was 100% correct.
Wow.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm
yeah.
displaying a picture there. That's him there, holding an ankh.
Mhm.
I know Greg had asked about the
Yeah,
ankh.
and the Ankh, holding the Ankh.
Or Anka. You can
Ankh.
either way. Yeah, Ankh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's holding the rod. You see the rod and staff?
Mhm.
The staff.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a vibrational tuning fork where they used to levitate huge rocks and everything with the harmonics into place.
So you were told that.
Yes.
So it was done with the harmonics through an audio method. And we know a little bit about
Yes,
this,
with the vibrations.
the vibrations and
and it's
being able to
we can't really hear
levitate
it. Right.
very heavy objects.
Hmm.
Apparently this
And
is
in one of those,
even in modern times.
one of those hypnosis sessions, they spoke about Anunnaki as well. They're also in the discourse, and they have the handbag, the handbag that you often see.
Yes.
Yes. Oh
Right.
goodness. Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what's in them. They've been carrying them different countries or cultures, and yeah, those.
Yeah. Graham Hancock
Yes.
tends to allude that they might be full of hallucinogens.
Yes.
It was
Yeah,
like
they
in
have
their little
actually
stash
said-
bags. But
Well, they told me what it was under hypnosis.
What was it?
what was it? We need to know this.
It's an activator,
Okay.
and you
Okay.
just tune it and you just change it. They showed me all like this, and you just create stuff with it as in actual fact, you'll be able to watch that on the discourse under my playlist. So if people start watching them, it starts from the first one and it goes in order. So I know I'm jumping all over the show, but I'm trying to keep
Oh, that's
fine.
okay.
We'll
I'm trying to keep them in line with like how it unfolded.
sure.
So when we got back from Peru, we had lockdown. We didn't know that the whole world was going into COVID. And the day I landed back, our whole country locked down. So I got back just in time. And when we came out of COVID, there's the bags, you see.
Yes.
And there's the Anunnaki holding it.
Right.
So
On the left. Yep.
Alba called me. She said, can you talk? I said, I'm at the grocery store. I'll phone you in 10 minutes. And as I drove my car back, I started seeing the vision playing like a movie again. And I said to her, look, I don't know if this is nonsense, but I've just been told that you're going to hypnotize me 12 times. They're going to give me all the questions to give you. You will ask me those questions under hypnosis. They will channel it. They wanted for me to write a book called The Discourse, which is a conversation, holding a conversation. And they said it's going to be like a master's degree for humans in spiritual development, to teach them who they are, why they are, what they are, how they're here, who's here at this time, that the earth could only hold a specific amount of beings, specifically for ascension. So we have all come with our star-seeded lineage. The reason we are all so different is because it actually is a glimpse of what we are. And instead of fighting with each other and not liking the differences, we should be embracing them. But that every single person here has got a specific job, a purpose for ascension. There were many souls, they said, that wanted to be part of it. But they said, how many people can you fit in a party in one room at any given time? So there was a call out to the galactics, and people's souls, beings, stepped forward to take part. Some people are here, as I found out under hypnosis, to be toners, just to tone and hold. Others are just holding the vibration. You can be a garbage guy. You can be a post office collector. You can be a brain surgeon. And all you have to do is lead your regular life. You don't even know that you're actually, through your genetic lineage as such, that you've got a particular bandwidth of vibration that is now a blueprint that is fitting together like a puzzle piece with all the others. And it has to get to a certain crescendo for Gaia to have her lift off, because they said it's time for her ascension. It's her graduation. She's taking her new position in the galaxy. So we've come along to help her. And the reason they said it's time to get rid of your shit, there's no other word to say it. Your baggage, how much baggage are you carrying that belongs to everybody else? That is actually physically weighing you down and lowering your vibration. So they then said to me 3 years ago, we are coming in for a period of a very rough, troubled time. Everything's going to collapse. Finances, health system, education, everything. But they said it needs to collapse because the way it is at the moment is actually not serving humanity. We've been yoked. So we can't play victims anymore. There's no such thing as a victim. Anybody that does anything that triggers you is a total gift. We're going to get through this. We need to know who we are. We need to stay strong in order to be light so that we rise above. And then Thoth said in his spaceship and going down over the different areas and showing us what's coming, that there is a landslide victory to the people.
Humans.
Yep.
Humans, rather than say a small percentage of them, right? I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something we talk about a lot is that the way things have been, particularly since COVID, and now you see like interest rates rising, everything's so expensive with all the food chain supplies and supply chains, I guess is really the right term for that. Things are just out of kilter. You know, it's like not like people are getting more money all of a sudden. So it's really crushing everyone. You know, we saw cans of soup going for almost $5 a can in a local supermarket.
He could not let that go. He was saying it for weeks.
In a U.S. denomination is quite a bit for a can of soup. Yeah. And I just thought, man, our economy is so screwed. If soup is going to cost $5, forget gas, because I can't even buy soup now. You know, it's kind of ridiculous. Like we're really heading in a bad direction. Like something has got to give here, and eventually it will, one way or another. Like people will get
Well, they
fed up.
said it's a roller
Something's gonna
coaster.
Yeah.
The moment the roller coaster is coming down, it's going to be in the dip,
Mhm.
but the speed of it coming up on the other side is fantastic. We've just got to get through the dip. They said within 5 years, big changes, within 9 years, total change. So my son has got a app on his phone that you can look up the night sky and you can see the different stars.
Yes.
And it was midnight last year, and I've got big day beds outside in the front. And I said to him, "Hey, are you still awake?" He said, "Yes." I said, "I can't sleep. Can you bring the app, please? Let's lie on the day bed and look up at the night sky. Let's just see what's going on." And he said, "Have you ever seen a UFO, Mum?" I said, "I actually have." And he said, "What about a shooting star?" I said, "Yeah, once or twice." So we were lying back looking up at the sky. And he said to me, What's that? What's that, Mum?" And I mean, he's in his like 31 years old. He's not a kid. And we watched this light tracking, but it was not tracking like this, and it tracked zigzaggy. And then another one came, and then the next minute, the entire sky exploded. It was like somebody took a flash. It was so big. And we both looked at each other, and we said, "What the was that?"
Right?
We did that the other night.
Yeah, we had something like that happen.
Yeah.
Recently.
It was weird.
We saw a flash. That
What was that? I was
I know.
freaked out. It was not lightning.
It wasn't, but you
But,
get a
but
thought
this
like struck next to us or something.
But this was massive. This would have been bigger than the whole of America in the sky.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
it
Yeah.
was it was as if the sky had exploded.
Wow.
So I told Alban under hypnosis, it came out and the Galactic said, "We are here. We are with you guys. We needed to show you who we are. We needed to show you the light behind us. There's nothing to fear. Everything is going according to plan. You're playing your part perfectly. Stay aligned, ground yourself. Don't get involved in the rabbit holes. There's no light down a rabbit hole."
Well put.
Yes.
Do you think you mentioned a couple ancient sites like Egypt, of course, Peru? You know, civilizations go back there, and there's some kind of mysterious things in Peru.
Mm.
Have they always been here?
The so-called aliens.
Yes. When you say it's like an alien base and a mountain in Peru, like are there bases in places like Egypt or Greece or Antarctica?
Well, they told me about space ox. And they said that there's one in West Antarctica, and that people are worrying about a climate change at the moment, but that there's not really a climate change. Firstly, it's just Earth doing what Earth does, but that the space arc is heating up. And Michelle, when I hypnotized her, she said it's going golden, then it's dark, then it's golden, then it's dark. The energy that is coming off that, it's now being activated, and it's melting the icebergs. But they said that it has to happen because what's going to be revealed underneath. So about, a few years ago, my guide said to me that there's going to be water everywhere, that what was at the bottom is going to be at the top. Animals and birds and humans are going to have to adapt. There's going to be a revolution because people are going to be, it's going to be disclosed. They showed me priests standing with those cloaks just flying off. And they said what they've done unto man and under the name of God is going to be exposed. Many of them will be so shameful, they'll commit suicide.
Oh
and
my
they
goodness.
said humans will now realize with the ancient technology that's going to come through and the stuff that's going to be revealed, like the arcs, they're going to learn who they are. They're going to realize they've been lied to for years. And then a revolution's going to start.
When you say Ark, so you're referring to things like Ark of the Covenant?
No, this is an actual a spaceship. Spaceships.
Okay.
Big spaceships.
So ark as in like a ship.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like
Is
big,
there any kind of call for like depopulation or
Mm,
any kind of Georgia Guidestones business?
good question.
They showed me, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to use the name FAUCR, the doctor that's been promoting.
Oh, yes. We don't go into politics, but yes, understandable.
No, so it's not politics at all. So what they showed me is they had him standing and they had Judas Iscariot standing next to him.
Okay.
And they said without Judas Iscariot, we wouldn't have had the story of Jesus. Without that other one that I've just told you,
Yeah.
standing next to him, we wouldn't have the story of everything that humanity is going through since 2020. That it's all planned. That had to happen in order for people to understand how they are being controlled. And it's all part of letting people rise up so that they can see who they are and be light.
I'm not sure if I would have put him in that league, but
Yeah.
we've often wondered about like how well this thing works.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
being a possible biological weapon or
weapon.
something along those lines of things.
Or if Mother
Earth
Nature is just taking the world back.
taking the world
Or
back
Gaia.
because
They said he's just
Gravity
playing.
on
He's playing his
pollution,
perception.
you know, got cut down so dramatically
Yeah.
at the height, you know, when the China manufacturing facilities were unable to run. In
Yeah.
particular, you know, the skies were changing, the animals were making a comeback. We could even see it locally, which was amazing,
Mhm.
but not for the right reasons, unfortunately. Not what we'd hoped for.
To get back to the Galactics, because I know that's what you want to speak about. 2 weeks ago, Michelle and I decided to have a workshop in the little village where I live. And in the evening, we had a different one, and she was doing her mediumship, giving messages to the crowd from their loved ones. And then a friend of mine hypnotized me in front of the crowd. And I didn't know what was going to come through. But during the day, during the workshop, there was a being that was in front of me within literally 2 centimeters from my face. The most beautiful big blue eyes, the weirdest head. I looked it up afterwards. It's Octurian. And she was female. And she came right into me and back, almost like melding with me. I couldn't understand it. And the lady that was doing the meditation during the day said, "You're in a garden, look at the flowers." Well, all the flowers, when I looked at them, turned to crystals. And I looked to the side and there was a being, a man with a long cloak on, and it looked like he was standing on a landing platform looking out into deep space. So I knew that was important. So when she said to me in the evening, "Where would you like to go?" I said, "Take me back to the garden. There's something about the crystals and that blue being." And immediately I went into, so we didn't even record it, but everybody said my voice changed completely. And luckily, a lady that was there needed to go to the toilet. So she just pressed voice record. So she sent it to me and I wrote it all up and I've put it on my YouTube channel. But what it was, the being that was standing there in the cloak was watching the spaceships arrive at the landing platform because it was a way station. And my job as the and I found out that that was me. I was that fractal. And that's why it was blending in and out with me. And as people arrived, or humans or whatever they were, from whatever planet they came from, I would choose the crystals. I was the keeper of the crystals. I would look at their bandwidth. I would find their original blueprint. And say, for example, Kristen, you were a green. You were a green in this earth life. And now, when you first arrived, you were a bright green. But as your wattage dimmed, you became a softer, softer, softer light green. Then you arrive on the landing platform and you get escorted to me and my team. I find your original blueprint, the exact green that you're supposed to be, the deep, deep, beautiful green. I then choose the exact crystal for you. I align it with you. I vibrate it with you. And you start glowing back to your full, deep green. When you are healed, you then go in front of the wise council. They look at you, they discuss it with you, they show you a video of your life, and you assess yourself. They don't assess you. They don't judge you. They just say, hey, how do you think you did? And you go, oh my gosh, I was supposed to do unconditional love. Man, that was what I was doing last time as well. Actually, this time I did bloody well. I'm so proud of myself. And they go, great job. Usually your guide's there with you or one of your soul family as support structure to listen. When you're finished, you meet your soul family. You have the joy of a reunion, but then you need a siesta, a vacation, and a break. So you then choose where you wish to go. If you always loved Andromeda, that was your favorite hangout, you go and spend some time there. Or Hawaii, where did you like to hang? And that's what you do. When you are sick and tired of hanging and relaxing, you then decide, I think I'm ready again. Some guides will say, you're not ready. No, I'm ready. I want to go like a workaholic on earth. So even against their better judgment, you go in. And I had that recently with somebody that tried to commit suicide 5 times and eventually committed suicide. And then I got a connection and found out why. And they said she was such an ethereal being. We told her she's not ready to go back. She came with such a high vibration. Earth was so dense for her that it was like going through a swamp, just like a quagmire. And the love of her mother kept her here longer than needed. So she went back to spirit. There was no judgment whatsoever. It was an experience. So now she went, okay, next time, I'll listen. And so they go to the waiting room and they get taught about the politics and the procedures of whatever place they're going. They meet their team. They get given like a GPS, things that will happen in their lives. So eventually when Kristen meets Chris, it's like something sparks. It's like a little memory. And it's like, okay, now we're going to play our parts in this play.
Right. I get the sense that there is a sense of time still continuing on where, I don't know, I always think about time being like such a human concept, but it seems like, when you say, well, we're going to go spend some time over here and relax, and, it's kind of still measured out, but the soul itself, that fractal that we're talking about, it, I think is probably eternal. So I don't know how that works out. Like I think about my cats, right? Our cats.
Yes.
They live maybe 15% of the lifespan of a human and on average or something like that. I feel like time probably moves really fast for them. If we go out for the night and I come back the next day and the cat's been like, I even gone for like a week,
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
The heck did you go?
It has this kind of accelerated time to it. I wonder how that works. I guess, when you're talking about soul families and you're not in this incarnation.
It's so interesting because those animals, some of them have been there to greet the owners on the other side. And one of the women that I hypnotized from England, her current horse is her guide.
Oh.
And every time she rides him, she just has an infusion of intuition. Fascinating.
Yep,
Right,
very
yeah,
much so.
What are your thoughts on say something like deja vu?
So to me, deja vu is that you actually, because you've already lived everything all at the same time anyway, and life is a dream, and it's a dream that's the reality. So it's like a dream state, and all you're doing is jumping. So you've already done it. You don't know that you've done it. And it's just like a flick in the matrix, like a blip, and it's like, oh, okay. Oh, that's weird. I really feel that I've done that before. That's because you have.
Because you have, right? Like maybe you dreamt it.
Yeah.
I know Lloyd Auerbach, I think, told us that.
Yes.
It was like a premonitory dream. He's a parapsychologist, and in a pretty good one. And he had said that it's probably something that you dreamt before, forgot, and then when something triggered the memory, you know. So if you're doing something else when you're dreaming, I know before the show we were talking about timeline dreams, right? That's something Kristen and I have experienced, where you wake up from a dream and just feel like you have this whole other life going on simultaneously. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't even know how it all works. You know, I just sort of like take each day as it comes. But dreams fascinate me because I've actually had serial dreams where I can stop and then go back into the dream. And it's, how on earth does that work? But my guide said to me that your sleeping state is when they deeply connect with you, when they can connect with you without any interruptions. So I found that really interesting. And it's like, that's where you're getting your recharging your battery. They said to me that the sleep is so important. But they also taught me that I need to teach humanity about jumping timelines and how they can slow time down or speed time up. So I don't know if you want to know about that.
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I live in the ski village called Wanaka, and there's Queenstown an hour away over the Crown Range, over a mountain range. And it's a windy, windy road. And it was midweek. It was about 6 o'clock at night. And it was an absolute miracle. There was nobody on the road. Nobody. I was the only driver. And I stopped midway where there's a little place called Cardrona. And my friend's got a general store there. And I thought, well, I'll pop in and support her. And then I said, okay, cheers. It was literally the twilight zone. You know, when twilight and everything's those soft, beautiful hues. And there was a speed limit of 50 kilometers. And then it went to 70. But there wasn't anybody there. So I went straight to 70. And remember, there was nobody on the Crown Range. Coming towards me was a traffic cop. And I thought, shit.
Speeding.
And the cop looked at me. I looked at the cop. And I knew that he was going to turn around and give me a ticket. So instantly, without even thinking, I said to my guides, hey, guys, is this really the way we're going to end this day? It's been so beautiful. And very facetiously, I said, can't you just make him disappear? Within a nanosecond, there were about 12 cars coming towards me and heaps of cars in my rearview mirror. And I kept on looking for the cop, and the cop had disappeared. There was no cop. So I thought, where's the cop? Where's the cop?
Yeah,
I knew something happened. So I got home and I said to the guides, what on earth happened? They said, but you requested the cop to disappear, so we put you on a different timeline. They said, all you need is a slither of a fly's wing to jump timelines. And they said humanity needs to know that they are the creator of their own time. So they said, if you're having a very, very busy day and you've got lots of tasks to do, request that time gets extended. If you're having a shit of a day and you've had it, you don't want it, you say to them, you know what? I've had enough. Could you please compress here? So I told my husband about it. He said, he's really not into any of this. He said, what a load of rubbish. 2 weeks later, he went to Japan to do some skiing. And he was in the queue in customs. And he said it was windy, 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 windy. He had to clear customs and get onto a connecting flight to go to this place called Neseko or Niseko. And he said, I was never going to make it. Never. He said, but I remembered what you said. He said, so I asked for an extension and I heard a voice in my head say, look for the man in the hat. And he said, in the next minute, there was this man with a pointy hat. So I beckoned him, he says, because I can't speak Japanese, gave him my passport. He pulled me out of the line, took me straight to the booth where they looked and stamped, escorted me to domestic. And he said, I couldn't believe it. I was sitting on the plane and I had 15 minutes to spare.
Wow.
So he's a believer.
He's a believer.
And see that? It's like a weird synchronicity, and those
Yeah.
kind of things do happen. It's, I can't tell you, like being a kid and just like, I really need some money, or just maybe it's between jobs or something, and along comes a $20 bill blowing down the street. Like that happens every day, and that's happened actually a couple of times back then,
Yeah.
They're like, well, there you go. It's like the universe conspires to give you what you need. It's so strange. And we certainly have had those dreams where we felt like we lived entirely different lives. And you wake up into this one,
Yeah.
and you go, wow, and you have this little flittering of memory, but you kind of, you lay out of your room, all these things about it and what you were doing over there. And then here you are, perhaps that all happens. And while that sounds so far-fetched, science or physics, if you want to call it physics, it's really math, looks at things like string theory and dimensions. And once you get beyond the fifth dimension and that, which is a kind of accepted theory, although it's still a theory, right? Time starts to come into play. And as you go up dimensions, you have more timelines, and you can go back in you can jump those timelines, literally. Like I think we get about the 8th dimension or so.
Yes.
You can
That's
jump
we figured
jump
out,
them.
yeah.
Right, instead of having to go back to where the first split happened, you could just do it simultaneously, and then you're in 2 different timelines at the same time. And they prove this stuff with math. I don't understand the math. I don't pretend to. We don't know it, but
yeah,
It's
it
quantum
says
physics.
there.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
String
it is.
theory.
Yes.
So they explained it to me like this. They said, on Earth, you've got a singer called Celine Dion who puts out something called a CD. And she's got her songs on the CD, but none of the songs are the same. One will be slow, one will be fast, one will be 3 minutes, maybe another one 2.5 minutes. All different songs, all different frequencies, but all on the same CD. And they said, imagine if you are the CD. That is your oversoul, okay? And your oversoul or your soul is like a pizza. And it's got lots of fractals. Each pizza slice is a different fractal, but they are still you. You are still each one. And you are able, and I'm just thinking, Chris, when you were talking, and Kristen, about the dreams, maybe what we're doing during those dreams is we are dipping into our other fractals, into exactly who we are, living all the multiple lives, all at exactly the same time.
Right.
We
All
actually
things
agree with you. We
are
think that
happening
as well.
simultaneously.
Mhm.
It could be. I mean, think about it. If you have a dream and you're just doing, like, I don't know how many of these dreams I've had where I got up and went to work and was disappointed when I'd wake up because I had to do the exact same thing at that point, get up and go to work. Right. Just like spend an extra hour of my day seemingly doing that, even though it's probably seconds in your brain. But maybe that's a life that's running parallel to mine. That's very close to the one I remember, this one that we seem to remember. And I just had a glimpse into something that was very close to where I'm at, where if we have another one where her and I are like fighting alien robot things like the Terminator movie. And maybe that's just something else completely different. Now we've gone a few shades, away from the current boring life. Right?
Yeah, we were like really badass, like superheroes.
Jumping on platforms.
I'm like, cool, let's go.
Yeah, crazy, but really cool stuff, and maybe explain some of those nightmares. Maybe some of them don't turn out as well. So, anything is possible, and maybe it is all happening.
Yeah,
because it's sort of like hypnosis. It's almost like when you get hypnotized, it's like being in lots of different dreams, and it's watching the movie and seeing everything in front of you and playing it all through and just talking and saying, this is what I'm seeing. This is now happening. Oh, what about this? What about that? I mean, one of them, when Alba hypnotized me for the book, I was in the halls of the Great Hall, which is the halls of justice. And I was there as the emissary, and all the other ambassadors from all the other galactics and solar systems were arriving. I could see all these spaceships coming. And we were there, and then we met with a floating table with these huge screens in front of us. And we were looking at Earth and seeing how it was going and where it needed help. And we found out that the blue avians were looking after the portals around our Earth structure, so that if the infiltration of the so-called baddies were coming, they were there to, push them away, and just making sure that everybody was in their places. But the one that I found most interesting with her is called Spaceship Light. She said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the halls of the Great Hall. I've just had a meeting. Everything went well, but now I'm coming into," and I came into the spaceship. There were 4 of us manning the spaceship, one on either side, one at the back, one in the front. And one of them, and we had, it was such a huge, huge, huge spaceship that we had the ground crew, we had like a medic team, like an onboard hospital. And she said, "What are you doing? What do we do?" And I said, "Well, we've all got different skills. But I'm the ambassador, so I go, as the peace. Laura goes in, she's the healer. She sends the healing vibes onto the planet even before we arrive. And the other one was a linguist, and she could speak all the languages, all the telepathy. But what we were doing search and rescue missions. So we were going to different planets, picking up the beings. We would dematerialize them, put them into tubes underneath in the bowels of the spaceship. And each tube had its own, like the right oxygen levels, the right climate for that particular being. Then what we would do is we would land at the landing platforms of the home base, the home planet or star system of those beings. And their soul family or their guides would be there to meet them. And then as they were beamed down, they would materialize into the actual material as body, like we the humans, or whatever shape they needed.
Carbon-based life form type thing. Yeah.
Yes. And there were thousands of these tubes. So they told me that when the troubled times come to Earth, those beings that need to stay on planet Earth for the restructure, I saw millions of spaceships above, and they said the light workers will be lifted in a nanosecond. So now I understand how they will be dematerialized, taken up, and they said when all the rumblings and everything stop, then they will put us back in place where we need to be.
It's interesting.
Well, that is definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Lots of hellos out there. And Jason and Isaac and Jeff, the goat, say hello. Isaac says, if I was an alien,
Just read that.
I would abduct Amber Heard. She's hot. Apparently you are on Team Amber.
Yeah.
I don't know. Team Amber, was that popular around here?
It wasn't or was?
Wasn't.
No.
Wasn't.
No,
No.
not at all.
You were not a Team
Oh,
Amber
you
person.
mean here?
Yeah.
Don't even.
I don't even watch TV.
Isaac,
so.
don't even get me started.
No. I think we were Team Johnny. I'm just going to go with it.
Yes, very much so.
So I don't know how much time we've got left. If you want me to tell you about the near-death experience and how I went through the human body and was taught how the energy system works.
We're doing
Yes,
great.
please.
I just want to ask you before we get there, and I'm not sure how much time you have. We don't want to keep you,
Yeah.
but just with the tubes and populating, is this something that they tell you is how it works? Like they find other planets that are like our own, which we know there are probably millions and millions of out there in the universe that maybe we'll start to see better with the James Webb Telescope. which
Yeah.
provided our background picture today. That is
Yes.
Jupiter, taken from the James Webb. Never looking so good. That's a real photo.
Gorgeous.
And basically go down in these ships with like tubes of people and shoot them through tubes, because this does sound,
War of the Worlds. in
yeah, it's
a
a little
way.
wild,
Yeah.
to materialize and dematerialize.
How do you
people,
dematerialize?
but maybe,
Yeah.
we are water and cells, and probably can fit it in a test tube if you took all the water out.
Well, actually, Kristen, that was so interesting, your comment there, because about 3 days ago, I hypnotized somebody from New Mexico, and he was in the legal fraternity, but something made him change completely and start doing something else. And he said that he'd come across a meteorite, a 90-pound meteorite. Some chap had said to him, look, do you want to buy this meteorite that landed in our garden? They saw this thing hurtling through space and a big explosion. And so he got a sample and he took it to the laboratory, and it came back as inconclusive. So he said to the guy, well, look, here's the lab report. It's inconclusive. And the guy went, oh, okay, well, then just give me a few $100. But he said, Joel, the energy coming from this is phenomenal. He actually owns a crystal shop. That's what he's opened up.
Oh,
And he
so we could feel it.
pouring in like droves, right?
Mm.
And suddenly I said to him, oh, the meteorite is talking to me. He's got a message for you. And he said, yeah, what is it? He's saying that you are not his keeper. Nobody keeps him. He's ancient and he has such knowledge, but that you are his guardian. And what he did, the meteorite said that he changed his molecular structure for having the biological examination from the laboratory. He said, because if I hadn't done that, then it would have been conclusive and you wouldn't have been able to afford me, because it would have been thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
And you are the right human, the right energy to hold for my vibration. And he said, you have got such an affinity with crystals that when you open your hand and hold one, you communicate with it and it actually turns over in your hand. He said, yes, actually, that's correct. Now, one of the questions he had before I hypnotized him while we were having our interview, he said to me, Jill, I met a very, very old lady in Albuquerque. I think that's is there a place called Albuquerque?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, in Albuquerque. And he said, she came to me in a dream and she said to me, so you want to see? Well, let me show you. He said, and there were 5 beings in front of me. He said, one was like a jellyfish and it extended its arm and its palm out in friendship to me. Now, he said, I really want to go more into that, if that's okay. I said, sure. So lo and behold, in the hypnosis session, the jellyfish started communicating with me. And I said, the jellyfish is here, has got a message for you. Is it okay to share it? He said, yes, please. Now, this guy had 4 major car accidents and each one had damaged his back and he'd had like herniated discs. And I said, the jellyfish is your buddy and you've been buddies before. You come from the same planet, that same star seed, but you're just having different fractal experiences at the moment. You as a human and him as this jellyfish being. So what he's doing is he's diving really deeply, deep under the ocean, and he's found this almost like an herb, like a seaweed as such, that humans don't even know is there at the moment. And he said he's macerating it and it's turning it into a paste. And he's putting it on your discs. And as he puts it on, it starts absorbing and starts healing, almost like stem cell, where it's regenerating.
Sure, yeah.
Afterwards, he said to me, Jill, that was insane. He said, my entire back and body was vibrating. He said, I felt everything. He said, I just don't have any pain. He said, it's so strong. I just can't believe it.
Wow.
So
There it is.
That's awesome.
I don't doubt it.
I think we
know
both
there's,
need that.
Yeah, that
we need
some jellyfish,
jellyfish.
they think have alien DNA in them, right?
Yep.
So
Isn't it wonderful?
Right. I mean, there's so many things
it's
that
an
people
awesome
don't know.
story. My
And when
goodness.
they hear something that sounds maybe a little outside of the diatribe they're used to hearing, you go, oh, that sounds crazy. But then you can say, well, how does gravity work? Well, the more mass you have, there's more gravity. Well,
Yeah.
how does it really work, though? I don't know.
Electricity, same thing.
How does electricity work? We don't know. We can manipulate it, but we don't really know what it is.
I love
necessarily.
that though. I think that's
So it's
really
amazing.
wild.
Of course, you got to be open to new ideas, new things, and if you want to talk to a jellyfish, well, the jellyfish might have something to say.
Exactly.
So, I do not doubt this. Now, tell us about your near-death experience.
So I had a bad skiing accident, and the surgeon said to me, Jill, I don't think you'll ever walk again. And if you do, I don't think you'll walk properly. Your damage is shocking.
Oh, goodness.
And he said that after he'd seen an MRI. But what happened to me in the MRI, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a grateful person. And as I was lying there in that chamber with the headphones on,
Mhm.
I said in my head, I wonder how this machine works. And the very next minute, I watched the video playing that just comes like inside. And I was shown a fish finder and a magnetic resonance and then an image. And that's how you found the fish. And I went, oh, yes. Oh, magnetic resonance, image, fish. Okay. Then I was in England and I was being pushed in between the stones at Stonehenge.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was pushed between like short stones and it was going boing. And then the other ones were further apart and it went boing. And they said to me, Stonehenge is a receiving and a transmitting station. And that's how the ancients spoke to the gods. And I went, oh, I didn't know that. And then the very next minute, this tiny little man appeared. And he looked like Mother Teresa, but in male form with crinkled skin. And he had like an Egyptian breastplate, all in the turquoise and everything. And it was my guide, Aurelius. So I said to him, wow, Aurelius. And the noise from an MRI is like a jackhammer. It goes,
It's awful.
Right?
Bang, bang, bang. And then goes that. Yes. Yes.
So I said to him, is this noise giving you a headache in whatever dimension you are? He said, listen, hush and stop jabbering like a monkey. I've got something to show you. I want to show you how the human energy system works. So he showed me the outline of a human body with this fine white mist coming in. He said, you humans give it many names. You call it prana, you call it life force, you call it oxygen, you call it spirit. He said, for all we care, you can call it strawberry jam. He said, without your good sense of humor, without it, there's no life. So I went, yep. He said, okay. He said, let me show you what happens. He said, every human owns their very own hotel. And they have 7 floors in the hotel. And he showed me a picture of Da Vinci Man, with the arms up and the 7.
Yeah.
Sure. Classic picture. Yes.
Yeah. So we know those as meridians or chakras. And he said, you humans call them chakras. You humans call them meridians. I want to explain it in such a way that all humans understand it. He said, Jill, you have the ability to speak to university professors, but how is that going to help the everyday person in the street? He said, it'll be hieroglyphics. He said, so let's just keep it simple. Humans have got a hotel and they have a lobby, and the lobby is their mouth. That is where the air comes in and out. And he said, from the top of their head to the bottom of their toes, there is a lift shaft, and it connects all the way down. And there is a lift door on every floor. And as you breathe in, He said within a nanosecond, each lift door opens up, all at exactly the same time. And he says, he goes, pew, pew, pew. And he said there is a vortex or a little portal inside the lift door that spins at such a high vibration. And then he showed me the image of centrifugal force in a laboratory, you know, when you've got that little test tube and it's going, and then he showed me the helicopter wings with the blades, and he said you wouldn't even know they're there because they go so fast. So he said your air comes in, that goes through the portal, and the portal, the energy of the vortex, distributes it right across that entire floor. So if you're on the top floor, and it'll go through the eyes, the blood, the bones, the membrane, the gristle, the hair follicles, everything. He says, however, humans have something called negative emotions. And he said a negative emotion has color. He said, you need to start studying the origins of your words. He said, have you ever heard the words green with envy or red with rage? He said, many men hold rage in their chests, usually because it's a situation that they can't control. And he said, as soon as you have color that you choose to bring in to your system, into your hotel, he said, it's no longer flowing because color is dense. That's why people always put white ceilings in rooms to make it bigger and make it look more spacious. If you have reds or blacks or dark blues, it makes your room much smaller. And he said, now that oxygen, that spirit, that life force that you've been blessed with can't get through to everything on that floor, to all the rooms on that floor, because now there's blockages. So he says, now your body is no longer at ease. Now it's at dis-ease. So now you become diseased. But he said, it's self-inflicted. And that is why he said humans have to be conscious, means awake and aware of their thoughts, so that when somebody triggers them, instead of saying, oh, you made me do that, he said that's the biggest gift you can ever get, because you are realizing somebody is triggering you. They're not triggering you, you're triggering yourself, because it's something that you can't control. You haven't mastered it. And you are here to be masters of your self, of your hotel. He then said, every human has got a penthouse and a basement. And that's where your thoughts are. He said, so why would so many have basement thoughts when they can actually live in the penthouse, where the views are better? But he said, people will dumb themselves down and live more in basement than penthouse, because the people that they're hanging around with haven't got penthouse moments. And they'll go, well, who are you? Who do you think you are, kind of thing. And they said, you're not here to appease other people. You're here to appease yourself, because when you dumb yourself down and don't live your purpose, you get resentful, you get angry, you get frustrated, you start having fights with people, and then you hold in all your cells. You're holding and you're holding and you're holding until there's so much weight that your cells can't cope anymore. And your body tells you, hey, Houston, we have a problem here. That's how your body tells you that your emotions are out of kilter. And they said to me, if you want to know what emotion you're having, look at your body problem. And there, he said, is a metaphysical companion to every emotion. And he said, there are humans on this earth that have already written books about this. So if you've got a sore toe or an injured knee, you're typing injured knee, metaphysical meaning, and it'll give you the answer of the emotion that needs to be addressed. And he said, to end our session, it is clean coming in. It is pure coming in. This is what you've been gifted to energize your hotel. He said, what is it going to be coming out? He said, are you going to poison those around you, or are you going to bless them? Because he said, humans don't realize that there's something called the boomerang. He said, energy can never get stopped. And he said, once it comes out of your mouth, that is exactly the gift that you're choosing for yourself, because it will come back. So whatever you give out is going to come back. What is it that you choose?
Is that almost like karma to you? I know it's like intentions and thought forms and things, we could do that, but is that like karma, do you believe?
I don't really know about this karma so much. I just think basically
Don't
it's what you're getting back. It's that simple. So what do you want? What
I'm
do
kind
you
of more
want?
on the no karma
Yeah.
side, where she's more on
on the karma
definitely
side.
karma side. But I have to say, there's sometimes it does seem like it is karma. It's very strange, but I do think we both agree with this: like attracts like, right? So if you're a negative person, a low vibration might be a good way to put it. In the form of this hotel, and you're in those lower floors,
Yeah, I wrote it
you know,
down.
you're going to attract more lower things, right? You're kind of stuck on something instead of rising above it and maybe being a little higher frequency.
Until you just don't want to do that anymore. So after that, my chest was really bad in the hospital. I did have a sort of like almost like a chest infection while I had the operation. And I went home and I was woken up. I slept in the spare bedroom because I was in so much pain and I couldn't have my husband, you know, in the bed with me. And I was woken up at about 2 a.m. with a noise that sounded like a freight train. And then I realized it was me and I couldn't breathe. And I knew I was dying. And I panicked, which seemed forever, but it must have been a few seconds. And the next minute, the entire room lit up with white lights. Bright, 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 but soft at the same time. I know it sounds crazy.
No,
And
just
and 3 huge pairs of hands appeared in the bedroom.
Wow.
You know, like the hands that you see that they hold the Bible, that kind of look. And they took me over here, over my hip area and around the bottom where my legs are. And they started singing Rockabye Baby in the cradle, that one. And they said to me, it is not your time. We're going to help you to breathe again. And they showed me how to breathe because I was almost like hyperventilating.
Yeah.
And I started like getting calmer and whatever. And then the light started fading away. And I thought, what did that mean? And my husband came in and he said, you called. And I hadn't called. And he said, oh, I don't like the look of you at all. And he propped me up and we got the doctor and I found out that my lungs had collapsed.
Wow.
So I was looked after. After that, everything started going crazy. We moved from there and we moved to the ski village. And because it was closer to the snow and they were traveling 4 hours there and back every single weekend so that they could ski. And here it's like 30 minutes. And I became a real estate agent. And in a place about 15 minutes away, I went to ask the lady how to put little brochures in a particular area. And she was very rude. And I thought to myself, wow, I wonder why she's so rude. Everybody here's so nice. She must be hurting. That night when I was falling asleep, she was standing at the bottom of my bed with this man who was all dressed in tweeds, and he was holding a horse and he was reining the horse in. And I was told that this is her father and that he used to rein her in like an animal, and that she's bought this business to say to him, look at me, I'm a person too. Please notice me. Please be proud of me. And that's when they said to me, humanity is born in this current incarnation to appease themselves. Be true to yourself. Do what fills your heart. Obviously, don't go and hurt people, but live your purpose, live your passion. But she wasn't. She was putting her emotional well-being in the hands of somebody else. And when you do that, you leak your power. So then your hotel starts dilapidating because it's not being maintained. It's not getting repairs and maintenance. So, the building, the foundations aren't strong. You're not the caretaker of it anymore. You've handed it to somebody else. It has the keys to my hotel. Do whatever you like. Oh my gosh, it's falling to pieces. And then you seesaw on this roller coaster of emotions. And they said, first appease yourself so that when you do something, you do it because you really want to do it. And the same with everybody else. That's been authentic. So I found myself going to her business. The car was driving itself, and it said in my head, it's time to do your job. This is the work you've got to do. And it was the very first time that I'd stood in front of somebody and seen this video playing in my head. And I said to her, I've got a message for you. She said, who from? I thought, shit, I don't know. I said, from my head. She said, what? So I told her what had happened. And she said, how do you know my father's British? I said, because he had British tweeds. And then she said, so where did you get this information from? I said, I don't know. It's just like a video I see. And she said, well, you're 100% correct. And that's when I started shaking, because I thought to myself, I was brand new in town. I could have been known as the utter nutter, that had just arrived. So she ended up selling the business, moving away, and she felt amazing. And then I thought, wow, this is a serious job I've got, this affects people's lives.
Right. It is very serious. She was living with that all that time, may have continued to for the rest of her life without really realizing what she was doing.
So they said to me, it's not for you to interpret the message. You just tell the people what we tell you, because the message is for the receiver. They will understand it. So a lady then got hold of me and she said to me, I need to meet you down at the river. And she said to me, I think I've got lung cancer. So I said, oh, really? And she said, yes, could you tell me if I've got lung cancer? I said, I'm not allowed to diagnose. I'm not a doctor. And she said, listen, just, like yes or no. So I said, look, just stand over there. And I sat in my car and I had a pad and a pen in my car. I never have a pad and a pen in my car. I don't know how the hell that happened. And I just said, Aurelius, does she have lung cancer? He said, affirmative. I said, why? The lungs. And he said, because the lungs are a holding place or a reservoir. I said, for what? He said, for all expectations and grief. And it made me realize how people say, oh, I really need to get that off my chest when they have a problem with somebody. And so that's where they're holding it. And then it reminded me of the MRI and all the different organs. And so her husband appeared. Her husband had been dead for 14 years. And he appeared and he had a message for her. And it was absolutely fascinating. And then I was told that I had to do a healing on her once a week. And I said to her, I'm not a healer. I don't know why they've said this. And she said to me, look, I'm so happy for you to come and whatever. So my guides told me what to do. And I stood with my hands at the foot of her bed. I started at her feet and I asked for no side effects for either of us. and for her to get exactly the correct amount of healing that she's needing at this time. And I asked permission to do it. And then I started. And my hand started gliding about this much above her body. And I could actually feel the pressure in certain areas. And my hand went upside down. And my hand was making movements that I didn't know it could. And the voice in my head kept on telling me to bring this hand in to hold it, because they said we want it to be laser beam accurate. We don't want it to be healing that's, so far. So it's energetic vibrational healing. And I was actually working through the literal waves of energy, the waves of vibration. And I thought, man, this is hard work doing it upside down. And I said, oh, they're telling me that you're eating upside down. She said, what do you mean? I said, I don't know. She said, ask. Oh, I said, king, queen, prince. You have to eat like a king for breakfast, a queen for lunch, and a prince for dinner, because humans go to bed most times after dinner. So it's very hard for their digestion to have a big meal at night. She said, oh, I haven't, had breakfast for 14 years or whatever. And then I said to her, I saw something, I thought, I said, can I be very personal, ask you a very personal question? She said, yes. I said, do you have trouble going to the toilet? I said, because they've just shown me, I've just got inside your intestines, and they looked like cracked Easter eggs, like a dry mud pan. She said, yes, I actually have to go through the doctor for manual evacuation. I said, they're telling me that you have to have a mug of boiling water upon rising and retiring. And if most humans do this, it's like drain cleaner. It just helps to dislodge and clean out these systems.
Flow. Make the flow. Yeah, go better. Go better.
And she was only having 2 cups of coffee a day and her cigarettes and no water. And only when that finished, I thought, holy shit. I've seen inside the human body.
Wow.
Crazy,
Wow.
eh?
Yeah,
It
it's
is
definitely
very-
crazy. And that this kind of comes to you from a near-death experience perspective as well of your own, seeing your own mortality. It does seem like, and it's a sad thing to say, that humans are kind of just born broken. Like if we're here to learn lessons, then there's going to be something wrong, right? Like it just never goes smoothly for everyone. Now, certainly some of us have it worse than others, but we're kind of in a way broken from the get-go.
Oh, Chris, Kristen said just now about the karma thing.
Yes.
And I thought this is one of the ones that hit me the hardest, Kristen, is I had a client that came to see me. She was so thin and so pale. And when I took notes, I found out that she had bowel cancer. She'd been married for 38 years, and when her husband found out she had bowel cancer, he divorced her.
Oh, geez. What a jerk.
Wow.
So on a human side, we go, what a jerk, right?
Exactly.
But-
I could have said a better word, but I was nice.
But with hypnosis, we learn a different way. We realize that there's a hell of a lot more to the layers than we realize. So when she had her session with me, I found an entity attached to her head. And I said, you shouldn't be here. What are you doing here? No, she looked lonely and she was sad. And so I thought I'd keep her company. I said, but you're a spark of light. Let me help you go home. No, I'm not going. No way. The murderer's there, the person who murdered me. And I'm thinking, hey, bud, you're already dead. So, you can't get killed again. And I said, let's call in the murderer. So I called the murderer in because everything's energy. And they were British, these two. And the woman I was hypnotizing was a Kiwi, a New Zealander.
Oh, wow.
And it was amazing because I've got my client there. And now I've got these 2 entities that I'm chatting to, doing therapy with. And I said to the guy, his name was Howard, tell this guy how you feel. He said, I can't believe you did that to me. I was 36, prime of my life. He said, and you killed me. So the guy comes through and he says, "Oh, so sorry, old fruit, old fellow, you know, I was drunk out of my mind. It was just a pure accident. I never meant to kill you." So I said, "So Howard, what would you like to tell him?" He says, "Well, what can I do?" He said, it was almost like the wind was taken out of his sails. It was like, oh, I said, "So you've been holding on to this anger and earthbound all this time when it was an accident." So I said to the other guy, "So what do you want to say?" He says, "Well, look, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." I said, "So what are you going to do, Howard?" He says, "Well, it's pointless hanging around here, isn't it? I mean, he said he's sorry." I said, "So has it got time for you to go home, see your family?" "Yes." I said, "Before you go, could you tell me what you've done to this lady by hanging around in her head?" "Oh, fuzzy concentration, lack of memory, you know, that kind of stuff." I said, "Great. Would you like to take all your energy with you before you go? And would you like to ask her for her forgiveness?" So she forgave him. He gathered it all up and off he went. I said to her, "What would you like to put in its place? Because now there's a vacancy." She said, "Oh, great memory and this and that and, you know, love and fabulous." So we scanned the rest of the body and I said, "Please take me to an area if there's any more problems." "Yes, the bowel." I thought, yeah, I'm not surprised. So I said, "Is this an energy or an entity?" "No, it's an energy." How would you like to be addressed?" "Anger." Oh. So anger, tell me, when did you first arrive in this person's body? "When she was 7 years old." "What happened when she was 7? "Well, that was the very first time her father raped her."
Oh, goodness.
Okay. So, because I took my notes, I called the father in. So this is on an energy level again.
Mhm.
The father is still alive in his 80s, but called him in. Let's call him Bill. "Hi, Bill. Tell me about your childhood." "Oh, my mother adored me, but my father was a businessman. He never had the time of day for me." "What about your wife?" "She's just like my father. She's always busy." "And what about your little girl?" "Oh, she loves me unconditionally." "You know, Bill, that's awesome. But can I ask you a question? Why are you having adult sexual relationships with a child?" Absolute stunned silence. Let's call the lady Susan, my client. "Susan, could you please tell your father how this made you feel?" And she started crying and she said, "You made me feel dirty. You robbed me of all my firsts. I couldn't have friends home. I was too scared you were going to hurt them as well. You basically ruined my life." And his response was, "How can you ever forgive me? I am so sorry. I cannot believe that I didn't realize that. Where was I living? Where was my mind? I should be the one with cancer." She ended up forgiving him. And then I said to her guides, "Could you please take me to a lifetime, show her a lifetime that is pertinent to this lifetime she's living right now?" I said, "Where are you?" She said, "I'm in India. It's the 1700s. I'm a British officer. I've arrived with my wife and my little girl. We just a few years married. And as soon as I arrive, the British Empire sends me way, way, way deep into the Indian hinterland. There's no planes, there's no trains, there's no motor vehicles. It's an elephant or horseback or walking. And I'm away for years. And when I get back, my wife didn't wait for me anymore. She couldn't wait for me. So she found somebody else." I said, "How did that make you feel?" "Devastated." "So did you have another relationship?" No, I turned to women and girls and books." So as I scanned the rest of her body, I got down to her ankle, and there she had had a really bad Achilles rip, and she was at a dance, and I called her husband in energetically and said, "Did you help her?" He said, "Why should I help her? I didn't feel her pain." And I said, tell me about your childhood. And he said, I was at boarding school. I was a farmer's son. And the boys played with me in the shower.
Oh, geez.
I said, how did you feel about that? He said, I disliked it. And then we found out that he actually was gay in the marriage and that she was quite masculine looking and that he couldn't tell anybody in their community that he was gay because it's the deep South and people would be judgmental. So he was trapped living because he didn't appease himself. So angry with her. The only thing they really had in common was sex. And when she couldn't have sex anymore because of the bowel cancer, he divorced her. So I did a forgiveness thing with them both. They gave each other permission to move on. When she came out of the hypnosis, she said to me, Jill, if you could see what I did to those women and those little girls, I was no better than my father.
Oh my
She
goodness.
said, I could never judge my father again. She said, it's almost like I was the perpetrator, and this time I came to play the role of the victim to even it out. So, Kristen, if you want to call that karma, do
Yeah.
you see how we have no idea?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
Right. In a way, it is karma, but it's
Yes.
such a different level,
Right.
than that's why we tell people like not to be aggressive towards spirits if you're doing the
Yes.
paranormal thing and
Be very
out there and
respectful.
yelling at ghosts and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we're not in a position to judge
Excuse me.
anyone, even if, supposedly he's haunted by a murderer or whatever.
Right.
A,
Yeah.
you don't know for sure who you're talking to. B, you don't know what happened to that person. We're not judges. We're not that they're God. They have their own thing to deal with. But so interesting, you mentioned attachments, which is another subject we like a lot because we put a lot of value in that. We do. Spirit release therapy
Mm-hmm.
is a thing, and people, probably do have these attachments, and maybe lots of them. Probably we do.
I'm sure
you
what we do. Yeah, but
and being around these things can pick up attachments, and then they're negative and can affect your behaviors. And
as much as you
thoughts.
ground and try to keep them away from you, there are certain entities that can get past that.
Yeah,
I believe.
we can draw.
Do you
them.
know that they told me what you could do to help that?
What can we do?
Okay, so what you've got to do is you've got to sort of like meditate, meaning going to a point of stillness. And then you've got to put yourself inside your Merkaba, which is your double tetrahedron, the pyramid at the top and the pyramid at the bottom.
Okay.
In the middle is something called a magic square. So imagine that you've got like a lazy boy or a chair, like you, the master and commander, and you're sitting in the middle. And both the pyramids are golden light. But you make them spin, one clockwise and the other anti-clockwise.
Okay.
At such a rate, and you give the command that you are now releasing and cutting anything that is attached to you.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So that it'll go.
I wrote it down. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, that's neat. Well,
Share what a Merkaba looks like for anyone that doesn't know. Our audience, although I think most of us are familiar with that. There's a little animated one.
yeah, I guess that's cute.
Yes, and do you see how it becomes a square in the middle? They call that the magic square, which is our building block or our foundation, which is exactly our building blocks because that's what we build to change our structure in between each incarnation.
Right. And there on the right side, you can see the two pyramids, opposite each other. As they spin, it's a little clearer than in the center image that features a human. So that is the visualization.
Nice.
So clever.
We try here on Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Yes.
Well, Jill, this has been wonderful. I've enjoyed our talk immensely.
Yes. Thank you.
We like this, and we love what you've got to say. People should find you at jillcole.org. You can book hypnosis sessions, and I think you called it introspective hypnosis. Is that right? Did I say that
Yes.
properly? Excellent. And you also have a YouTube channel out there. We know you're working with Michelle Carpenter, and we saw
Yes.
some videos with her as well. And we had a lot of fun talking to her as
We
well.
did.
And this has been a blast.
Yes.
So the
much.
book is
Thank
called
you so much.
Discourse, and it
Yeah,
should
this
be.
is what it looks like.
Ah,
Oh yeah, there you go. And that's a
That's
full-size book right there.
Yeah.
Some people try to write 30 pages and call it a book. That's a real book.
And it's on Audible as well if people don't like reading, and if they want to work or go for walks or drive, then at least they can listen at the same time.
Excellent.
excellent.
So can they pick that up on Amazon as
Yeah,
well?
Amazon. Yeah.
Okay, and that's probably where you would get the Audible, I imagine. Lots of thank yous and great show stuff out there.
Mhm.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, everybody who joined us today, Mr. Koss and Joshua and Courtney
Thank
and
you.
Anne-Marie and Jason. Really appreciate it, guys. And most especially thank you, Jill. Thank you for your
Yes.
patience in
Thank
front
you
of the
so
show
very much.
and my confusion of times and time zones and daylight
We were
savings
looking
time.
them up.
I
Yeah,
can't
I
thank you
apologize.
guys.
But-
And guys, I'd love to return the favor and have you on my show and interview you, because you guys are so interesting, and I would love to know all about you guys.
Oh, we would like that.
Thank
we
you.
do
That would be
interviews occasionally.
wonderful.
We'll be in touch. Love to do that. We have a
Thank
pretty
you so
interesting
much.
story.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill.
We
We'll
appreciate
Thanks,
talk
guys.
soon.
Cheers.
Great. Thank you, everyone.